Hello learners, I welcome you all to the Impetus series, and in this session we'll be covering the tiger reserves. Now first, something about Impetus series. Now we have already captured in detail what we'll be covering in the Impetus series, what are our objective. In a crux, just to repeat the things, I'll say there are basically two things I can say. To prepare your traditional content in a non-conventional way. And why it is important? To give a very exam centric and result oriented approach. You will see in the I've put some together some questions also. You'll see the importance of this series. So what will be the overview of the session? We'll be covering the Tiger Reserve series. There will be many series as we discussed in the introduction. So we'll be covering Tigers Reserve series in 3 sessions. First 2 sessions will be with respect to mapping, and we'll be covering almost all 50 tiger reserve in the first 2 sessions. In the third session, we'll be covering what are the important initiatives taken by India, some of the basic conceptual things, tiger reserve versus national park with wildlife sanctuary, some conceptual understanding in the third part. So let's carry on. So first of all, some examples. Why we should read these? We will say why we need to read these 50 tiger reserves as such. Why we do not need to cram for what we will remember only those which are coming in the current affair. Exactly, you are right. But it is very tough to track the keep a track of the current affairs. You will be keeping a track of current affairs, but maybe a tiger reserve is in the news for some very vague reasons, but the question can come in the pretext of the current affair. So it is better for us to take these all the national parks and tiger reserves to the static portion, and this is why this Impetus series is important. Now you can argue that we have so many, for example, more than 543 wildlife sanctuaries, more than hundreds of the national parks, so we will read that too. No, the answer is no, because that is not feasible. We have very limited memory and we cannot put our onus to capture all the 103 national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. No, we'll be covering wildlife sanctuaries which will be in the current affairs. That will be in the separate module. Current affair module will be covering that. But here in Impetus, we are trying to give you some basic structure of static. For example, 50 tiger reserves. Not that they are manageable, and within those tiger reserves, many of the tiger reserves are national parks. So important national parks are already covered in the tiger reserve. You see, very logical thing is there, right? If in a national park, a tiger is a very important species. Now a national park which is reserved for tiger conservation, which is under the Project Tiger, so it will be important for many purposes. So what we are trying to do, that we will read all those 50 tiger reserves one by one, very shortly, very crisp, not too much into detail, just a mapping and a few points about them. That's it. That will help you to solve the question itself. Now first see few questions which came in UPSC, the previous year UPSC. I just put together 5 to 6 questions just to make you realize what will be the importance of this series. Now if you have attempted UPSC in the previous years, you will be knowing how difficult were these questions to attend in on the particular day. Now first question, it seems very easy, which state the Pakhui wildlife sanctuary is, but let me tell you, it was not that easy on that particular day. So some easy questions are also there. For example, this one is also very easy question. We won't be discussing answer of it, we'll be discussing the answers after the end of the third session, when you have a comprehensive understanding of the tiger reserves, all the 50 tiger reserves. Then we'll be covering all the questions that I'm showing you. I'm just showing you with the questions, I'm just showing you the importance of the tiger reserve, why you should read these 50 tiger reserves. I find if we read these 50 tiger reserves, we will get at least 1 to 2 questions right. You can see 2017 earlier question were 2012, and before that was 2018. And if you see the trend after 2017, you can see more and more questions from these areas. So this one is easy question. Now this one was a very tricky question, especially for people who, in the northern side. For example, if you're living in this particular area, then obviously have some an idea of your local ecology, but you're living in the northern part of the country and you have not read very fine details here, very small differences there between some places. This tiger reserve, Nagar hole, very small, very nearby. We'll cover each and everything very precise, on a very precise nature. Similarly, this question, last year this question was asked, and this question was very perplexed. Now if you have read tiger reserves, now this is, for example, this is Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve. In almost every question there is one tiger reserve. This is Mudumalai Tiger Reserve, Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve. Here there is no tiger reserve, and here is Nagarjuna Sarisalam Tiger Reserve. So if you know the location of these tiger reserves, you are able to not get the answer. I may agree that you will not get the answer, but you are able to eliminate also. And prelims is all about getting the probabilities right, increasing the probabilities of success, elimination method, right? So this information, this very crisp course of will be less than 100 minutes or 120 minutes, 2 hours of it will take you, but it will help you to get these questions right. So very less cost and very high benefit. So very less cost to benefit analysis has to be there for every topic you take. So for this topic, the cost is too low and benefit is too much. So this was a simple question asked. It will help, simple question asked, it will help you to eliminate the topic points at least. Okay, so let's cover some basic concepts first. Not basic concept, just tiger reserves. So India basically have 50 tiger reserves currently, and few are in the potential radar of the ministry to put some more tiger reserves into the more ecologically vulnerable area into the tiger reserves. Now, which is the authority taking care of it? NTCA, National Tiger Conservation Authority. Now, everybody knows that Project Tiger has been a very huge success in India. 80%, India also contains 80% of the world's tiger population. And the Project Tiger undertaken, it is one of the few projects that have shown a positive results taken by the government. So that's why it becomes more important, because it was achievement for the government itself. So next, so what complementary static you must read with it? We will not be covering those. For example, the vegetation, because many times a question with respect to vegetations are asked. So you have to cover vegetation on your own. You have to cover the mapping of the hills. Maybe in one day on Impetus series we will cover some hills also. So hills of northeast of the central India, so as to relate to tiger reserves, because the question can be asked in the context of the hill, between which hill and which hill this tiger reserve falls, or which national park falls. So you must have that basic understanding, the complementary static read that you do in the mapping. For example, you have to read this natural vegetation, whether it be the NCERT source or any other source, you have to complete that. Before this session, it will be more beneficial. This session will be more beneficial if you get through this. So for our convenience, let's start the session. For our convenience, we have divided, for example, we'll be covering Ramsar sites, biosphere reserves in the coming sessions. But for our convenience, in all the things, we have divided the India into few regions. For example, this is northeastern region. This is only we made so as to make our preparation easy, to get some structures right. This is north region, for example, Jammu Kashmir. This is Himachal, Punjab. We have covered it, and Uttarakhand we have covered in the northern area. Then central India we have covered UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, MP, Chhattisgarh. In the western area we are covering Maharashtra, Goa, Gujarat and Rajasthan. In southern, obviously Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Eastern part will cover Odisha and West Bengal. So in this way, we will be covering all the states, the national parks or the tiger reserve that fall into those places, and we'll have some structure. For example, it will help us to remember. It is very difficult to remember 50 tiger reserves on a trot. But if we divide the tiger reserves into regions, into states, it becomes a bit easy. If the structuring is in our mind, it becomes very easy for us to revise these things. And we have to revise, because I've shown you 5 questions, and in the last 4 years, 4 to 5 questions within these last 4 years have come. So now let's start. We'll start with the tiger reserves of the North India. So first, Jim Corbett National Park. Basically, you can see in the Uttarakhand, we are not concerned with the UP, because that is in the categorization that is in central India. So first of all, there is no tiger reserve in the Jammu Kashmir. There is no tiger reserve in the Himachal, but there is a tiger reserve. There are 2 tiger reserves in the Uttarakhand, Rajaji and the Jim Corbett. What other things you need to understand if the question can be asked to arrange from the north and south? For example, which is the northernmost? So Rajaji, then Jim Corbett. Within this area, we'll cover so many others. So the locational things can also be asked. So if you put together all the things, so it will help you in the mapping itself. The whole exercise we are doing, it will help you in the GS questions as well. So you can potentially get 2 extra marks if you are covering this 2 extra questions and 4 potential marks if you cover this series really well. At the end of the session, I'll know how to use this session more well, and so get maximum benefit out of this session. So first, Jim Corbett National Park, some facts we will take very quickly. We'll take the facts because we are reading for the prelims. Just important reminder for you. Some important facts, even if we miss some facts, for example. But you understand, because UPSC doesn't expect you to know everything. They want you to have very broad horizontal coverage of the topics. So if we remember 5 points, if we do not remember 6 points, but ultimately you'll be able to get the question right in the examination, because there will be some options through which you can eliminate the things. Okay, let's start. So it was one of the oldest national park in India, Haley National Park, to protect the Bengal tiger. So the Jim Corbett was earlier he was a hunter, then he turned to be a naturalist, and it was the first the Jim Corbett was the first one to come under the Project Tiger initiative. Next, you have to remember few things. For example, the river passing through, if any river passes through any park, what are the hills, if hills are there mentioned, and what is the geographical. For example, I've discussed natural vegetation, hills, biome, which biome within this tiger reserve falls. We also discussed one question in Namdafa where the question of biome came. Okay, so let's continue. So the park has sub-Himalayan belt geographical and ecological characteristics. Obviously, it's a sub-Himalayan thing. Ecotourism is there, a lot of tourism is there. This point is very important. I told you, right, that you have to get the vegetation first. You have to read from the geography portion, vegetation portion. So it has a very dense, moist, deciduous forest containing of sal, haldu, peepal, rohini, and mango trees. Even if you remember this moist deciduous thing, then also you can get it right. Okay, so it contains almost 75% of the park's area of the grassland. Okay, forests are too much. That is why it is one of the protected area of the Uttarakhand. So this is its geographical location. It is located partly along the valley between Lesser Himalaya in the north and the Shivalik in the south. Hence, it has a sub-Himalayan belt structure. Now, as I told you, we cannot cover Shivaliks and Lesser Himalayas in this session, right? That's just the Impetus session for those students who want to improve their marks, who are missing out by 1 or 2 questions. That is the key. So many people, so many students are just missing out just because of they could not get 1 question right or 2 questions right. So this series is for them. We want you to complement it with the static portion. Okay, so you can see the location between the Lesser Himalayas in the north and the Shivaliks in the south. Lesser Himalayas and the Shivaliks. So here it is, Jim Corbett. Recently, it has been in the news. For example, our Prime Minister has visited Jim Corbett National Park to spread awareness about the ecological importance of the places, the importance of the forest. We know everything, like why forests are important, especially in the climate change, in the times of the climate change. So okay, let's move on from Jim Corbett to the Rajaji Tiger Reserve. Now, Rajaji Tiger Reserve, again, we have seen the location. Rajaji was above the Jim Corbett. It's an Indian national park tiger that encompasses Shivaliks near the foothills of Himalayas. You have to remember these wildlife sanctuaries. For example, we cannot remember every wildlife sanctuary, but if wildlife sanctuary, for example, I showed you the Agastya Malai question, right? So many wildlife sanctuary was asked, but many of the aspirants, like 95% of the aspirants, must not have heard those names. It's very tough to remember those wildlife sanctuaries. Now, if we are covering this, so we expect you to cover these, at least these wildlife sanctuaries. For example, Chilla, Motichur, these wildlife sanctuary are Rajaji sanctuary. So for example, question can be asked in Uttarakhand area, in Uttarakhand state, they will give name of some wildlife sanctuary and identify it. So what UPSC basically wants, they are thinking that students must know, or they should know, at least that 50 tiger reserves are manageable. They also have empathy with their students, but they also want some serious aspirants who are willing to take some extra efforts, who are willing to take a non-traditional approach to cover topics. They also want those aspirants also who can think out of the box, because that is what you have to apply in the examination also, after the examination and after the examination when you are in the duty. Okay, so these 2 rivers, Ganga and Song River, these 2 rivers, Ganga and Song River, flow through the park. I told you that you have to remember the rivers that pass through the park, the hills, the location, and the wildlife, if any. So why Rajaji? And Rajaji was C. Raja Gopalachari, named after C. Raja Gopalachari. Okay, he was a Bharat Ratna, and he is given in history context. If we see, he is given the C. Rajaji formula. Okay, so the location part, Rajaji National Park is nestled between Shivalik Range and Indo-Gangetic Plains. Okay. Again, just to reiterate the location, Rajaji National Park and Jim Corbett National Park. I think we should move on. So basically in the 4 states, that is Jammu Kashmir, Himachal, Uttarakhand and Punjab, the 4th north region that we have taken, the Haryana and Punjab. So the states we have taken, only 2 tiger reserves are there that are also in the Uttarakhand. That question can also be asked in the literal form. For example, Jammu Kashmir contains one of the highest tiger reserve. You will think, if you have not read tiger reserve, all the 50 tigers, you will think, okay, Jammu Kashmir must have something. You will be confused with Hemis National Park, okay, Dachigam National Park. No, but no, Dachigam and Hemis are national parks, not tiger reserves. So that is why you need to keep a track of what are the tiger reserves. We are focusing on tiger reserves. Maybe in the future we will cover important national parks. We cannot cover all the 103 national parks, but still we can cover some important national parks. For example, Hamish, that I discussed, Hamish National Park, Dachigam National Park, that are not covered in the tiger reserve series. So we come to the eastern part. Eastern part, we have only states like Odisha and West Bengal, very ecologically rich region, and we'll find so many national parks here, tiger reserves here. First, Simlipal. Now Simlipal is a national, it is also a national park and tiger reserve in the Mayurbhanj district of the Odisha. Mayurbhanj, very resource rich region. It is a part of Mayurbhanj Elephant Reserve. So Elephant Reserve is there. So you see the name of this wildlife sanctuary, Hadgrah, Hadgrah. Even if you do not cram, even if you just remember if you just see in the video and you revise just once, in the exam if it comes, you will get it right. I'm sure of it. If you just see the video seriously and revise it once, that's it, and you'll get this right. Okay. So it derives, that fact is important. This fact is important. The Simlipal derives its name from the abundant red silk cotton trees growing in the area. So many abundant red silk cotton trees are there. So that's why it gets its name. And there are 2 waterfalls, Joranda and Birehi Pani Falls. It is home to Bengal tiger, Asian elephant, gaur or Chaursinkha. It is also biosphere reserve. We'll also cover in the next series itself. We'll cover the biosphere reserves, all the 18 biosphere reserves. And it is so Simlipal is a part of. So we'll repeat the Simlipal again because it is a part of biosphere reserves also. We will not skip it. So that if you're reading biospheres, you are able to revise all them. You are not dependent on the tiger reserve series to revise the biosphere part. Okay. Next, location wise, we'll see more locations in this diagram. For example, Simlipal location. You can see Simlipal very clear here. Then you can see Satkoshia here. Okay. More location, if we can identify some important location, are Hadgrah. You see, this is wildlife sanctuary. This is Bhitarkanika, very famous. Very famous. Bhitarkanika. We'll have the Ramsar site, and Bhitarkanika National Park is also there. Chilika Lake, Ramsar site again, Chilika Lake, Puri, Konark, some cultural mapping we can also see. So basically here I want you to remember Simlipal, Satkoshia, Bhitarkanika and Chilka, you also remember. We'll again discuss that in Ramsar sites lecture. So Simlipal again, you can see that falls, this falls and this falls, Bahrepani falls. So I've just put the image in so as to ingrain those ideas. Whatever you are supposed to cram, you have to cram all these things, right? So if you have some mental mapping with respect to it, it is easier for you to cram. Okay. Next, the Simlipal, the location, only this location, Simlipal, so you can identify in the map itself. Okay. Next we come to Satkoshia Tiger Reserve. It is located in the Angul district of Odisha. Reserve is located in the eastern highland moss deciduous forest ecoregion. So this fact you have to remember. For example, question can be asked, normally a question can be asked in the future, UPSC is not asked this particular question. For example, they'll give a description of a tiger reserve. This tiger reserve is located in the eastern highland. They'll give some other points, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. For example, we have covered only this fact. We have not covered these 3 facts. But if you have covered, and then they'll give example, option A Simlipal, option 2 Rajaji, option 3 Pakke, option 4 Namdafa. So if you have read only one fact, you just have to get it right. So that is why we are covering the most important facts, so as to do not put too much pressure into your mind. So we are doing series for you, so that you have very less content to remember, but a very important content to remember. Next, the major plant communities are mixed deciduous forest, including sal and riverine forest. So sal is important species here. Again, the location, I have shown you the location here, Satkoshia here. So we'll move on. Next, we will see Sundarban tiger reserve. Now we come from Odisha to the West Bengal region. The Sundarban itself is a tiger reserve. It's a biosphere reserve. The Ramsar recently made 27th Ramsar site. So it is one of the very rich ecological region. So again, it is mentioned national park, tiger reserve, biosphere reserve. It is the part of Sundarbans. The delta, Ganga delta is there. Ganga Brahmaputra delta is there. Okay, and it is adjacent to Sundarban reserve forest in the Bangladesh. You always remember, we will see so many examples where the boundaries of the countries are. You will see some natural region here and there. We will see with the Manas tiger reserve as well, this thing where a big reserve is there, and in between the boundaries also there. Okay. So delta is highly densely covered by mangrove forest and one of the largest reserve for the Bengal tigers. If you are curious about it, you can also see one of the documentaries in the on the Discovery, man-eating tigers. So there was some cases in which the tigers usually do not eat human beings, but there were some case studies done in the Sundarban, and international attention was drawn to the place when they found man-eating tigers. Okay. What else? So it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site also. Inscribed in 1987. Some World Heritage sites, some are natural sites, some are cultural sites, some are both. Okay, so it is a part of biosphere reserve. As I told you, within biosphere reserve, some of the biosphere reserves are recognized by UNESCO. So it is one of the tiger reserve, it is one of the biosphere reserve which is recognized by UNESCO. We will again cover Sundarbans both in the Ramsar site, both in the biosphere reserve. We won't skip it. So you can remember from there separately. The same content will be there, but more specific to the biosphere reserve. So location is obviously very obvious location near the delta. This is the delta region where the river distributes into so many parts and creates a very densely ecologically rich region. Even mangroves are there. They are called the first line of defense against the surges, the storm that comes from the sea. Next, we'll take tiger reserve, Buxa tiger reserve. So this Buxa tiger reserve is in the West Bengal. If you see the first location, if you see, this is Buxa tiger reserve. Okay. So Buxa tiger reserve is located, you see, if it is in the West Bengal region. Okay, many of the few must be confused that why West Bengal is going there. Yes, it's a very small thing is there. So you have to remember that West Bengal also goes there. So Darjeeling portion is here only, right? It comes in West Bengal. So don't think that it is in the northeast. No, it is in the West Bengal. So Buxa National Park is in the West Bengal. So it's a northern West Bengal covering an area of this. Areas is not important. I've just mentioned it. So it ranges 60 meter to the it contains from plains to bordering the Himalayas in the north. Obviously, eastern Himalayas are there. So from plains is also there, because Brahmaputra must be crossing from that place. So from that place to the Himalayan. So it has a lot of attitudinal variation, this tiger reserve. So what are the mammals? That is why we find so many mammals there. Asian elephant, gaur, sambar deer, clouded leopard, Indian leopard. We will cover some of the major species also in the coming session. Some animal species we will see. For example, what is more, again you will say, the same logic is there. Impetus is just to give you very specific knowledge to get the questions right. The same logic is there. We will teach you, we'll give you a compilation of the important species. Now, how you say that the species is important? That is where the trick lies. That is what separates individual who crack prelims from those who cannot, even after studying so much. Important species you can identify from the state list. What are the state animals? We will discuss one of the state animals today itself. So state animals. So state animal, it is obviously important for the state. That is why they made it a state animal. So, for example, hornbill for the Arunachal Pradesh. State animal, state bird is different. So for both we have IUCN category. So already you have around 50 species. Some of the states have common state animal. So 50 species you already have. So many students ask from where we should read the animal part. So very easy. Start with the state animals only. At least prepare those, start those 50 animals and finish those animals. Their IUCN category is something important with them. That's it. That will be a very static thing, not a current thing. And also read those are coming in the current portion. Other species are also important, which are very critically endangered. We have only few of them, which are important. And third thing, for example, I'm trying to tell you, we'll cover in that in the next series. For example, in animal series, you can see you can divide in three categories. First, the state animal and bird. Second, you can see the critically endangered one, which are critically endangered or endangered. And lastly, you can see those who are current affairs. Yes, you cannot leave which is in the current affair, but mostly the species that will cover here only, like 70% of the species will only be current affair. So in this way, I give you one more clue how to decode the current affairs. Current affair is not only current affair; it is a static portion also. Just have to see which part is important, how to cover current affair. If you are thinking how to prepare prelims holistically, you cannot depend on the current affair to prepare these topic. You have to cover these topic in this non-conventional way also. The many toppers I have talked to use this approach to increase their marks. So that is why I've never seen such a series being conducted in any of the institute where they give you a very proper compilation. Compilations are there. We'll give you Ramsar site, but 1 to 26 only mapping is there. We'll also give you some points also. So we are value adding your in your content because we respect your time. So let's move on from that point clue and let's move on. So basically Buxa Tiger Reserve having such, as you've discussed, that it has such a attitudinal variation. So that is why it also has a lot of variation in the vegetation also, from not diet deciduous to savanna woodland. So you don't have to remember just remember that Buxa, if you have just this logic, the Buxa Tiger Reserve has a very large attitudinal variation, and so it must be having a large of vegetation coverage. So what UPSC can give, or exam, or to test series you will be solving, for example, they will give this, they will take five region and they say, and one more 2 points, and they will ask, identify the tiger reserve or identify the national park. So you can easily then identify if you know this fact. Okay, let's move on. Now we move to the northeastern part of the India. Now we have covered the northern part, we have covered the eastern part. Now we will cover the northeast. The tiger reserve, those are in the northeast. First tiger reserve, if we see, it is Namdapha Tiger Reserve. If you see the location, very eastern location. So next, as we have seen, the location of the Namdapha is here. So if you can identify, it will be somewhere over here. So you see two hills here, there, Mishmi Hills and Patkai Bum. So it lies between these two hills, Namdapha. Okay, you must have covered so many hills are there in Arunachal Pradesh, and the test series people ask you to arrange it from left to right, north to south. So that is why it is very important. So you remember Mishmi Hills, then Patkai Bum, in between Namdapha Tiger Reserve. That will also be in the text also. So again, we see Namdapha is a large protected area in the Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, it is a biodiversity hotspot. So how many biodiversity hotspots we have? We have 4 hotspots. We'll cover that in the biosphere reserves. So what are the criteria of biodiversity hotspot? It is very important from the prelims perspective and also from the mains perspective also. And this fact is very important. This fact is very important, that national park harbors the northernmost lowland evergreen rainforest in the world at 27° latitude, because evergreen forests are mostly in the tropical region. Now even if it also contains some evergreen forest. So remember that Namdapha also contains some evergreen rainforest. Again, the harbor contains extensive dipterocrabs. Dipterocrabs basically are found in the evergreen. The best example is found in the Brunei, the country Borneo, country that is in the ASEAN. Okay, so it is found in the many of the equatorial region. Next, it is the 4th largest national park. That's not important. So that's what I was discussing. It is located between Dafa Bum range of Mishmi Hills and Patkai range. So this question can be asked between Mishmi and Patkai, which is the tiger reserve which is located. Because they are UPSC is found of the northeast, because so much less attention is given to the northeast in if we see politically and from the governance wise also. So it almost remains one of the neglected, like sadly it remains one of the neglected portion for the aspirants also as far as the polity is concerned. So but it is very important if you for them from the UPSC prelims question perspective. Okay, so there is a river that crosses it, that is the Noah Dhing river, that is Noah Dhing river. It originates at Chaukan Pass. You don't have to remember the Chaukan Pass, but just remember obviously Indo-Myanmar Bangladesh border is there. This is the, let me show you. Yeah, this is what? Just yes, this is Myanmar only. So it is very close to the Indo-Myanmar border. And the river, just remember the name of the river, now Dhing river. The land cover changes with increasing elevation from tropical evergreen to temperate broadleaf and mixed forest. Okay, so let's move. Just see, I just want to show you the now Dhing river also. You can see there this river here, now Dhing river. Okay, so let's move again. So this map captures so many tiger reserves. We'll be using this image a lot just to identify so many tiger reserves that we'll be covering in the northeast. Northeast contains a very good ecologically rich region. That is why so many national parks, Ramsar sites, the tiger reserves are there. So Namdafa, the location we'll identify and move on. Okay. Next is Kamlang Tiger Reserve. The Kamlang Wildlife Sanctuary, just read it, let's read it. Kamlang is established in 1989, not important. It is situated in the northeastern state of Arunachal Pradesh in the Lohit district. It is named after, I told you the important is river. So Kamlang river is there, which flows through it. And so many, let's say Mishmi tribe is also there, na? Tribes, so many tribes, because we have in the northeast so many tribes, very diverse ethnic structure is there. So many tribes like Mishmi, Digoru, Mizo, tribal people who reside around the periphery of sanctuary claim their descent from the Rukumo of the epic Mahabharata, Rukumo king from the Mahabharata. So they have some mythology associated with the place also. Important lake you can cover here is the Glow Lake. Now this lake we do not come across, just like we came across Loktak Lake or Chilka Lake or Sambar Lake. But Glow Lake is there. For example, you have to remember with the Kamlang. Why you should remember is again the same logic. If they give 4 options, if you do not know 3 options, but a Glow Lake is there, then you will be able to get this answer right. Located in the tropic and subtropical climate zone, sanctuary is the habitat for the 4, that is again very important fact. 4 big cats of species of India: tiger, leopard, clouded leopard and snow leopard. Okay, we'll cover these snow leopard, clouded leopard, those are very important. For example, clouded leopard is the national state animal of, think yourself, it is of Meghalaya. So we should remember the state animals also. I told you, the logic behind remembering the animals. It does not fall, these current affairs do not fall from the sky. They have some static, obviously context is there. So the location of Kamlang Tiger Reserve. So you can see very close location to what we have identified, in the Namdafa. So just to reiterate, for example, if you see the location is here, if we want to put both the Namdafa and the Kamlang together, so Kamlang will be here and Namdafa will be here, very nearby. Okay, so just to make yourself clear, I put this map so that you can identify, you can put it in your map also. Next, we will read a Pakke Tiger Reserve. Pakke Tiger Reserve, also known as Pukhoi Tiger Reserve. It is the very first line given in this description. Very first line is a project Tiger Reserve in the East Kameng district of Arunachal Pradesh in the northeastern India. The reserve is protected by Department of the Environment and Forest of Arunachal Pradesh. So recently it was like 2 years before it was renamed as Pukhoi Wildlife Sanctuary. Renamed Pukhoi. It was earlier named as Pukhoi. Now it's renamed as Pakke. So again, the question we discussed, very easy question now. You know Pukhoi Wildlife Sanctuary, right? So answer will be Arunachal Pradesh. Okay. So location of Pakke Tiger Reserve. The location, for example, we have seen here, that is, here it was Kamlang, here it is Namdafa, and again it is Pakke. Let's move on. This fact is very important. Why this fact is important, I'll come to let you know also. This tiger reserve has won the biodiversity award in the category of conservation of threatened species, hornbill nest adoption program. So some hornbill nest adoption program was there, so they won the biodiversity award. These awards are given periodically to the best performing places, some communities, the bureaucratic structures which are appointed to for the conservation. So this is the hornbill I was talking about, hornbill, and why it is important, how you can remember it. For example, if this is the state animal of Arunachal Pradesh. Now just to relate all the topics, for example, if the question comes that recently a hornbill festival was conducted in one of these states, or some other information is given, so how can you identify the states? Now if you remember the state list, state animals, the which state has this particular state as its state animal or state bird, you can at least, if you do not get it right, at least you can eliminate 1 to 2 option. The probabilities of getting the answers right increases. No teacher, no coaching in the world can offer you the exact solutions. They can, the preparation itself, you should prepare in such a way to increase the probabilities of success. If you talk to any topper or anyone who has qualified prelims, he will say that he was only knowing out of 100 questions, if he has attempted 80, he was only knowing at maximum 50 to 55 questions. In 25 questions, he has to choose between, for example, 4 options there, he eliminated 1, he has to choose between 3, or with 4 options he has eliminated 2, so he has to choose between 2. Many of the people do not know the exact answer of the questions they are doing. For that, your accuracy has to be very good, right? So it is all about increasing the probabilities of success, probabilities of getting it right. That is why you need to have these diverse facts, these non-traditional way, moving away from the traditional way and adopting a non-conventional way. But now you don't have to do it. We are doing it for you. With the Impetus series, we are putting an impetus to your preparation so that you are able to cover these facts along with you just carry on with the traditional preparation the way you are doing it. Just see these lectures and keep on revising it. Just revise it once or twice and you are done. And you will get the right in your tests you are writing. Before exam, you will be writing so many tests. In the test, you will find so many questions. In the UPS, you will find questions. And that will give you an edge over the other aspirants who are covering only the traditional topics. That is why we need this kind of investment in these kinds of series. So just to, this one is Pukhoi, you see, mapping, Pukhoi. But you see, if the question also comes, if for example, if you know, now why mapping part is important, mapping is done by so many students, but some skillful mapping is also too much required. Mapping itself is not important because there are millions of the things to map. But skillful mapping is important. Just knowing what is important, what can come in the examination, then you have to put the mapping in. Okay. So, for example, which context I was telling you. For example, you know Pakhoi is in Arunachal Pradesh, right? But you do not know the location. And you know Kaziranga is in Assam. So, how will you relate that Arunachal Pradesh is for example, you will say Arunachal Pradesh is like this, Assam is like this. So, it must be that Kaziranga must be here and Pukhoi must be here. So, if the question comes to arrange you from west to east, then you will get it wrong because Pukhoi is before Kaziranga. If the arrangement is done like this, and UPSC will pick up this only, they will not pick up the Namdafas and the Kamlangs because they know students will be confused here. So the student who has taken care of this particular point, he will be getting the marks. So Pukhoi we have seen. We will see some more. For example, in this map we should see some more also mapping. Baksa we have already discussed. The Manas, the Orang, the Nameri, and the Kaziranga. I used to remember it by very small MONK. That is Manas, Orang, Nameri, and Kaziranga. Basically, these are in the Assam only. They are not. They do not cover Pukhoi, and you can make your own mnemonic. So you can add B in the front, or you can add Pukhoi or Namdafa and Kamlag at the end. It's up to you. That is your uniqueness that needs to be separated. That has to separate you from the other aspirants. Okay, so let's move on. Then we see a Manas Tiger Reserve. We have seen already Manas Tiger Reserve here. So we will see in detail what Manas Tiger Reserve about Manas Tiger Reserve. So minus, first of all, it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, just like we have seen the Sundarbans. So that means that's ecologically very vulnerable and very important region. A Project Tiger Reserve, an Elephant Reserve, a Biosphere Reserve. Okay. So this was the I was point telling you that the boundaries are formed by these ecological reasons. These, for example, in Bhutan, the Royal Manas National Park is there, and in India we have Manas National Park. Okay. Then the Manas National Park is known for its rare and endangered endemic wildlife. What is important keyword here is endemic. Endemic word is very important. Endemic means that is found only here. This place specializes is having these kind of species. That is Assam roof turtle, hispid hare, golden langur, pygmy hog. So these species you must remember. We will cover those species. Don't put too much brain. Just think of the national. What I want you to think. Just think of the tiger reserve, the location. Location you have to cover right here, and a few facts. That's it. Manas, you should remember pygmy hog, because pygmy hog is a very important species associated with the Manas tiger reserve. Many times a question have been put in this category only. It is also known for the population of wild water buffalo. So basically two major biomes that I was discussing, that you should cover it in the static portion. The two major biomes, first is a grassland biome and second is the forest biome. Okay, so two major biomes are present. Grassland biome are pygmy, for example, there are in which biome which animal is found. You don't have to go too much into it. For example, if the question comes how two biomes are there and they want to identify which national park or tiger reserve we are talking about. So you have to understand. For example, question comes, it shares the boundary between two nations, India and its neighboring country. Now one more national park is there in the Bihar. We will cover that. So, but we have to differentiate. For example, the other point, that two biomes are there, and some different species is associated with different biomes. So that there it will help you to catch which is the tiger reserve we are talking about. Next is Nameri Tiger Reserve. Actually, UPSC has too much on the southern area. 2 to 3 questions I have shown you there, because southern is very tough. When we will covering in the next session, southern is very small details are there. So when we will cover the southern region, we will see that how small details are there. But northeastern region can also be asked. Next we come to the Nameri. Now this location seems very close to Pakui Tiger Reserve, right? We will see that it is very near to that. They share boundary. So it is at the foothills of the eastern Himalayan in the Sonit district of Assam, about 35 km from Tezpur. It shares Nandanad boundary with the Pakui Wildlife Sanctuary of Arunachal Pradesh. Together they constitute an area of Nameri. Here there are two core areas. First it is written the Nameri National Park, and again another wildlife sanctuary came, that is Sonai Rupai. So Sonai Rupai Wildlife Sanctuary is there, the satellite core of the Nameri Tiger Reserve. We'll also read about how the tiger reserves are divided. There is a core area and there is a buffer area. In the Biosphere Reserve, there are 3 areas. So with respect to comparison to that, Tiger Reserve has only 2 areas. Some core area where the very activities are very limited, and in the other area where activities are the little bit activities permitted. Again the river, 2 rivers are mentioned. Jia Bhoroi is considered to be the lifeline of the Nameri, some very small river. You don't have to remember this name, its origin, don't have to remember. But if the question will come with which river, now if you read today, that why I'm repeating the things which I should not now, so that you get a feel of it, so that we won't be covering in the next session these things, because you need to put structures in your mind how the question will come. Then only you will understand the significance of these topics. Unless until you won't see the question, how questions are coming, you will face them in the test series. And this, if this series benefits you, then only you have put trust in this Impetus series. Okay. The river Jia Bhoroi is the lifeline of Nameri. It flows along the southern boundary of the park from the northwest to northeast. In the eastern region, its tributary Bhor Dikroi flows along the southern boundary. So basically 2 rivers are there. Don't have to remember too much detail, just remember two rivers are there, Geo Bharoi and Bor Dikhroi. From the name it seems that in one of the aspirants, Abhijit's an aspirant's name is like, he told that many of the prelims question can be cracked from the etymology itself. Like if you see the word and you just able to crack what is its root and you can trace it to the region. A very separate session we should take on that, also some drilling tricks with respect to prelims. But let's carry on. Let's finish this. A few others are remaining. Next coming is the Orang National Park. Orang National Park already discussed within the monk. It is Orang National Park. You can see the location here is on the Brahmaputra. It is Brahmaputra, so you can see the location is very close to Brahmaputra. So it is a national park located at the northern bank of Brahmaputra river in the Darang and Sonitpur district of the Assam. Next, it is a very rich flora and fauna, including the great Indian rhino, pygmy hog. Pygmy hog, we have already did pygmy hog in the Manas also. So here it is also pygmy hog. Pygmy hog is also there, but in Manas they are found in the more thing. Why these pygmy hog I am saying? Because the three categories I told you, the second category, the critically endangered part is there. Okay. It is only stronghold of rhinos on the north bank of the Brahmaputra river. It is at the north bank of the river. You see north. Other one horned rhinoceros, other location is Kaziranga. Yes, but it is at the southern bank. So these subtle things can be asked. Brahmaputra is flowing. For example, Brahmaputra is flowing. So Orang is at the northern edge and Kaziranga is at the southern edge. That is why when the flooding in the, so many times you must have heard in the news that flooding in the Assam happens. So many of the pictures also show that one horned rhinoceros are facing so much issue, or some elephants are facing issue. We should take it very seriously. So that is why when flooding happens, these parks are totally flooded and wildlife, so much loss to the wildlife. Next, Orang currently has the highest density of the tigers in the India. Earlier it was with Kaziranga. Now some tigers shifted from Kaziranga to Orang. Now it has the highest tiger density. You see here also it is mentioned tiger density Orang, then Kaziranga, then Corbett. You don't have to remember decreasing wise, but just remember top two, Orang and Kaziranga. Next, I am putting these images in your mind so that you are able to connect with this thing and you don't have to cram. You have to cram at the end of the day, but if you remember these by images, the power of retainability will increase. So this is what we are as an institute, Amrita Institute, that is what we are trying to do, to put these non-conventional things into your mind, just to have very smart, is exam centric, and just get those crucial marks in, just cross that barrier. It's a relative exam, that is why you have to focus too much on the things that other person is not doing. But also remember, in process of doing that, you should not leave your traditional course. That is why we need courses like that, so that you can complement your traditional preparation with these things. Next, Orang National Park we have seen. Kaziranga, it is the last, I guess. So it's a national park in the Karbi Anglong, and Karbi Anglong we have also seen schedule. Yes, schedule 6. Schedule 6 or 65 will confirm it. It's a polity topic that Karbi Anglong district is mentioned. So sanctuary, the most important part is one horned rhinoceros. One horned rhinos are there. Okay, so it's a World Heritage Site. It was home to the highest density, as I discussed you. Now currently Orang has the highest density. Park is home to large breeding ground of population of elephants, wild water buffaloes and swamp deers. So it has a very high density of very high. For example, you have seen so many tigers are there. So along with them, other species also there. You also see why the tiger population is increasing, because they have so much to eat, because they are their food. So you can logically think like that. Next, it is an important bird life area. We will also see what are the important bird life area. These small concepts are very important, recognized by BirdLife International. These institutions play very crucial role. These NGOs or the non-governmental organization. It has received a notable success in the wildlife conservation also, and it is formed, as we have discussed, in the Namdapha, and that it is the part of the eastern Himalayan hotspot. So it is again a tall elephant grasslands, some important grasslands. There are so many crisscrossing small bodies of waters are there. Okay, The park celebrated its centennial in 1998. It was established very early in the British time. It was established because of the so much importance. Like we have seen Jim Corbett. Jim Corbett was earlier Haley National Park, right? So it is a very old national park. Then Tiger Reserve was made after the Project Tiger. Now it is it is very important ecological vitality of the region lies in the protection of these tiger reserves, these tiger reserve national parks and biosphere reserves. So just to finalize the things, we have another map. For example, Kaziranga is there. This is, we will read about Pabitora differently. This is Nameri, we have discussed. The Manas we have discussed. Orang we have discussed. Okay, this is Brahmaputra flowing. This is Bhutan, the Manas. So the other Manas, Royal Manas, will be here, in the Bhutan side. Okay, one more, yes, a very important, and you can say a neglected one also, because many of you must have read about Kaziranga, Manas, Orang, maybe Orang because of the density, but some of the portions are neglected because everybody thinks that national parks are only, or tiger reserves are only in the Arunachal region and the Assam region, but one national park, one tiger reserve is in the Mizoram area. If the Mizoram is this, so this is the Dampa Tiger Reserve. Okay, so it is the Dampa Tiger Reserve. It is in the western Mizoram area. It is in the Lushai Hills. So Lushai Hills is important. Lushai Hills is important. Many of the times question is only asked Lushai Hills, because in the northeast people do not know many facts. So even a simple fact can be asked. Lushai Hills is the part of which state? That's it. Small question. That's it. So Lushai Hills in the Mizoram. It was declared as a tiger reserve in 1994, part of Project Tiger. But currently, sadly, there is no tiger found in the census, tiger census done. Okay. So basically, in this, let's have an overview of this session. What we have covered. We started with dividing India into different regions for our own conveniences, not any government sources there, so that we can cover it more holistically in a more structured way. Then we came to the next topic, and then we covered the two tiger reserves from the north, the Jim Corbett and the Rajaji. Then we covered the eastern portion, eastern tiger reserves in the eastern area. Then we went on the northeast, where we have read so many tiger reserves. So what we'll be covering in the next topic, next season, we'll be covering the three regions remaining, that is central, that is western, and that is southern, the most important one. So that will be in progress in the next topic. So what exercise I want you to do before the next session? Now only reading it, one way communication will not help. What you have to do from your side, I'll suggest you that take a printout of the Indian map, India's map, or the map with the boundaries, not the physical map, and point out these tiger reserves. Just point it out, and that's it. Don't do anything else. Just point it out with respect to the diagrams we have done. We have covered every 17 to 18 tiger reserve we already covered. So we need to mark it in our map, because with the images, if you keep on seeing the images, it is fine. But even when you do not mark it by your own hand, till then you will not get the exact location. So I will suggest you that you should mark those things, mark that in your paper, and then you will be able to take the most advantage of this. Try to revise the things, the small things I have given. Don't worry about the species that are there, and don't worry about take care of the hills and the vegetation. That is on your part. But don't worry about the species. We'll be covering a few species. For example, we covered hornbill hare, pygmy hog we covered, but we not covered the complete. For example, which IUCN category they lie in, what is special, whether omnivores, herbivores. So these kind of small things are there. So we'll have that in the next Impetus series. But till now, in this Tiger Reserve session, this was the first session, and see you in the next session. Thank you.